Dark Souls might be the poster child for tough games, but plenty of open worlds demand even more grit. These 10 titles blend freedom with punishing difficulty, forcing you to survive, adapt, and sometimes accept brutal losses. If Dark Souls punishes impatience, Project Zomboid punishes literally everything else. It's not just a zombie survival game, it's a survival simulation. From the very first moment, the game makes it clear that your story is temporary. You're not here to win. You're here to last as long as you can before the inevitable happens. The game starts you with almost nothing. Just a house, a few supplies, and a spreading infection outside. From there, the entire world becomes a sandbox of problems. Food spoils, water eventually shuts off, and electricity fails. You need to scavenge, cook, farm, build, and even manage your character's mental health just to stay afloat. Ignore your needs, like sleep, boredom, or depression, and your performance nosedives. Then there are the zombies themselves. They're not the fast, screeching type. They're slow, yes, but they're everywhere. One careless sound, a car alarm, a window smash, even shouting too loud, can draw an entire horde that overruns your base in seconds. Even worse, one bite is a death sentence. There's no cure, no secret item to fix it. Get bitten, and you're already dead. You're just waiting for the clock to run out. What makes this so brutal is the way it layers systems together. You might be farming crops for winter when a rainstorm knocks out your power. Or you're looting a store and you slice your arm on broken glass. An infection risk if you don't patch it properly. Every choice matters, and the margin for error is razor thin. Yet, the difficulty is what makes the experience so compelling. Surviving for a week feels like an achievement. A month? Legendary. Some players pour hundreds of hours into carefully built safe houses, only to lose it all because of one mistake. But that's the hook. The knowledge that every run will end makes every decision meaningful. Scum is a massive multiplayer survival game that drops you onto a prison island with nothing but an orange jumpsuit and dares you to master some of the deepest survival systems in gaming. Every calorie you eat, every sip of water, every sprint across the woods is tracked and simulated. It's like someone fused a hardcore biology textbook with a battle royale and then turned the dial to merciless. From the start, it makes you painfully aware of your body. Eat too much sugar and your blood glucose spikes. Skip hydration and your stamina plummets. Vitamins, minerals, digestion rates. Everything is calculated in real time. Even the weight of gear affects your metabolism. You're constantly checking menus to monitor your character's vital stats, because a single imbalance can leave you weak, slow, or sick. But survival is only half the struggle. The island is a massive sandbox filled with AI-controlled drones, wild animals, and other players who can kill you for your gear. You'll scavenge abandoned towns, craft weapons, and build shelters, but danger is never far away. Gunfights can erupt without warning, and permadeath means that a single bullet can erase hours of careful planning. The game's complexity is punishing but weirdly addictive. Hunting and cooking aren't just side activities, they're lifelines. Even something as basic as running across the map becomes a strategy session. How much food to bring, how to keep your heart rate steady, when to rest to avoid muscle loss. Here, bosses don't test your reflexes. This tests your patience and attention to detail. It's not about memorizing attack patterns. It's about mastering your own biology and adapting to a living world that doesn't care if you fail. Every successful day feels like beating a final boss because you've outsmarted hunger, thirst, predators, and the brutal math of your own body. Scum isn't just hard, it's relentless. And that's exactly why it hooks players who think Dark Souls is the peak of challenge. The Long Dark tests raw survival instincts. This first-person wilderness survival game throws you into a frozen Canadian wasteland after a mysterious geomagnetic disaster. There are no zombies, no mutants, just you, the bitter cold, and nature's indifference. And believe it or not, that makes it even more punishing. The game starts quiet. You wake to a howling blizzard, a wrecked plane, and a cold that cuts through your clothes. There's no mini-map or glowing objective marker. You have to find shelter, start a fire, and figure out how to not freeze to death in the next hour. Temperature, fatigue, hunger, and thirst are constant threats. A miscalculation, staying outside too long, forgetting to boil water, misjudging a storm, can kill you faster than any monster in Dark Souls. Every choice is a gamble. Do you risk a long hike to a distant cabin for supplies, knowing a sudden whiteout could leave you stranded? Do you light a fire now and burn precious fuel, or save it and risk hypothermia? Wildlife adds more tension. Wolves stalk you relentlessly, and a single bear encounter can end a run that's lasted days. Weapons are scarce, ammo is precious, and hunting requires careful planning. Unlike many survival games, it doesn't give you endless crafting recipes or futuristic gadgets. Everything feels grounded. Melting snow for water, setting snares for rabbits, breaking down furniture for firewood. And when a blizzard sweeps in and you're huddled in a dark cabin, listening to the wind tear at the walls, the isolation feels real. What makes it harder than Dark Souls is that there's no pattern to learn, no boss to conquer. The world itself is the enemy, and it doesn't care how many hours you've played. Each survival attempt tells its own story, full of tiny victories and sudden losses. Surviving one more day feels like an epic win, because in the long dark, every breath is borrowed time. Outward throws you into a sprawling fantasy world and dares you to survive with almost no safety net. This isn't about playing a chosen hero. It's about being an ordinary traveler scraping by. From a moment you wake up on a storm-battered shore with a debt to pay, the game sets a different tone. No chosen one, no destiny, just the struggle to keep a roof over your head and food in your pack. Unlike most RPGs, death here doesn't mean a simple reload. Instead, it uses a unique defeat scenario system. Lose a fight and you might wake up robbed, enslaved, or rescued by strangers who demand a favor. Sometimes you're left bleeding in the wilderness, forcing a long trek home with no gear. Each failure reshapes your story, turning misfortune into memorable adventures. Survival mechanics run deep. You need to monitor hunger, thirst, fatigue, and even temperature. Forget to pack a water skin or a warm cloak, and a routine hike can turn deadly. Food spoils, potions require ingredients and time, and injuries linger unless you rest properly. It's a constant balancing act between exploration and preparation. Combat feels deliberately grounded. Swinging a sword or firing a bow takes stamina and planning, and magic requires learning intricate rune combinations instead of spamming spells. Fights against bandits or beasts can quickly overwhelm you if you're careless, and without autosaves, a single mistake can cost hours of progress. Yet it rewards resourcefulness. Every journey feels significant. The world reacts subtly to your actions. Factions remember your choices, and towns change over time. You're not the savior of the realm. You're just someone trying to survive. Compared to Dark Souls, Outward is more unpredictable and unforgiving. It demands preparation, patience, and a willingness to embrace setbacks as part of the adventure. Every trip beyond the city gates carries risk, but coming home alive after a long expedition feels like conquering a boss fight, because in a way, it is. Green Hell is about mastering survival in one of Earth's most hostile environments, the Amazon rainforest. This first-person survival game doesn't just test your ability to fight. It tests your mind, your resourcefulness, and your ability to stay alive when everything around you is designed to kill you. From the moment you're dropped into the dense jungle, the pressure is relentless. Hunger, thirst, fatigue, and wounds are just the beginning. The jungle itself is a predator. Venomous snakes lurk in the grass. Poisonous frogs hop across your path, and insects carry diseases that can leave you feverish or delusional. Every plant you pick could heal you or kill you if you don't know what you're doing. Survival here means paying attention to every detail. You'll need to gather wood, build shelters, and craft tools while monitoring your physical and mental health. A cut can become infected if untreated. Dirty water brings parasites. Skip sleep, and your sanity starts to slip, bringing hallucinations that blur the line between reality and imagination. Even finding food is a gamble. Hunt too aggressively and you might scare off game, but fail to hunt and starvation sets in. The game's crafting and cooking systems are deep and demanding. You'll learn to identify edible plants, smoke meat to preserve it, and create remedies from jungle herbs. Navigation is another challenge. There's no convenient map marker. You rely on a compass and landmarks, and one wrong turn can mean days of wandering. What makes Green Hell more punishing than Dark Souls is that the enemy isn't a dragon or a knight. It's the environment itself, from the oppressive humidity to the ever-present threat of infection. Every trip into the jungle is a risk, and every mistake can spiral into disaster. There's no pattern to memorize, no safe grind for levels, only the constant need to adapt and stay sharp. Few games capture pure tension like Stalker Call of Pripyat. Set in the irradiated Chernobyl exclusion zone, it combines open-world exploration, survival mechanics, and unpredictable combat to create an atmosphere that's as oppressive as it is unforgettable. Where Dark Souls tests your reflexes against scripted enemies, it pits you against a living, breathing world that seems determined to end you at every turn. The zone is a character in itself. Haunted ruins, rusting factories, and eerie forests echo with distant gunfire and mutant howls. You're a government agent sent to investigate crashed helicopters, but the story quickly takes a back seat to survival. Radiation hotspots, deadly anomalies, and unpredictable weather keep you constantly on edge. A single misstep into an anomaly can kill you instantly, and there's no hand-holding to warn you where danger lurks. Combat is brutal and unforgiving. Bandits, mercenaries, and rival stalkers roam the wasteland, each with their own agendas and AI routines. Gunfights are fast and lethal, with bullets carrying weight and recoil that demand precision. Ammo is scarce, weapons degrade, and a poorly timed reload can be fatal. Mutants like bloodsuckers and snorks don't follow predictable patterns. They strike from shadows, testing your nerves as much as your aim. Survival goes beyond firefights. You'll manage hunger, sleep, and radiation exposure while scavenging for food, ammo, and artifacts. Every choice has consequences. Side with one faction, and you might earn protection from some stalkers, but hostility from others. A-Life makes events unfold whether you're there or not. Bases get attacked, mutants migrate, and factions clash, creating a world that feels alive and hostile. What makes Call of Pripyat hard is the sheer unpredictability. There's no learning boss patterns or grinding for souls. The zone doesn't care how well you've prepared. Survival is never guaranteed, and every successful mission feels like a small miracle. Escape from Tarkov takes the tension of a survival game and fuses it with the precision of a hardcore military shooter. The result? A punishing experience where every raid feels like a life or death heist, and every decision could cost you hours of progress. Compared to Dark Souls, which lets you retry a boss as often as you like, Tarkov gives you one shot, and the stakes are way higher. Set in a fictional Russian city locked down after political chaos, the game drops you into large, war-torn maps filled with AI enemies, and, more dangerously, other players. Your goal is simple on paper: loot valuable gear and escape through extraction points. But the execution is anything but simple. You bring your own weapons and armor into each raid, and if you die, everything you carried is gone unless it was insured and somehow recovered. That risk makes every encounter heart-pounding. Gunplay here is brutally realistic. Ballistics track penetration, ricochet, and even how bullets interact with different armor plates. Weapon maintenance matters. Forget to clean your rifle, and it can jam at the worst moment. Healing isn't just slapping on medkit. You need to stop bleeding, manage pain, and keep an eye on hydration and energy. The tension is constant. A single gunshot in the distance makes you freeze. You'll spend entire minutes listening for footsteps, deciding whether to ambush or avoid. And just when you think it's safe, another player might be waiting by the extraction point to steal your loot in the final seconds. Progression is equally demanding. Skills like aiming, strength, and metabolism improve slowly through use. So every successful raid feels like hard-earned growth. But one bad run can wipe out expensive gear and weeks of savings. Escape from Tarkov challenges your nerve. It's not just about winning firefights. It's about making every bullet, every footstep, and every decision count when a single mistake means losing everything. At first glance, Valheim looks like a cozy Viking sandbox, a place to build longhouses, sail fjords, and sing around the campfire. But switch to its hardcore survival mode, and suddenly this chill Norse playground feels punishing. Every mechanic you thought was forgiving now turns lethal, and death becomes a setback that stings a lot. In hardcore mode, the game abandons its gentle onboarding. Food isn't just for buffs, it's the thin line between life and starvation. Hunger, stamina, and cold weather constantly press you for attention. Weather isn't cosmetic either. A sudden storm can sink your boat or flood your carefully planned base, and freezing nights sap your health unless you're near a roaring fire. The once friendly forest now hides wolves and trolls that can one-shot you if you wander unprepared. Exploration, which usually feels serene, becomes a high-stakes expedition. Venturing into the swamp means battling poisonous draugr and leeches while monitoring your health and supplies. The mountain biome adds brutal cold and surprise drake attacks, forcing careful planning of food, armor, and frost resistance potions. And if you die far from home, retrieving your gear requires a nerve-wracking corpse run across enemy territory, knowing another death will erase everything you brought. Combat, while looser than Dark Souls, gains intensity when every hit carries real consequences. Boss fights demand coordinated strategy and resource management. Crafting and base building become survival necessities rather than side projects. You'll spend nights stockpiling arrows, repairing weapons, and fortifying walls because the world never stops throwing danger at you. What makes hardcore Valheim hard is how it mixes long-term planning with sudden chaos. You're not just fighting monsters. You're fighting time, weather, and your own supply chain. Victory isn't beating a single boss. It's coming back from a week-long expedition with your gear, your health, and your sanity intact.
Being a blacksmith might bring no glory, but it has its benefits.
Kingdom Come Deliverance challenges your patience and attention to realism. Set in 15th century Bohemia, this open-world RPG ditches fantasy tropes for a historically grounded adventure where you play not as a chosen warrior, but as Henry, the blacksmith's son. There are no dragons or magic here, only the harsh realities of medieval life. And surviving them can be far tougher than slaying demons. From the start, this makes you feel small. Sword fighting is a complex dance of angles and timing, built around realistic physics. It's not about mashing buttons. You'll study stances, manage stamina, and master riposts. Armor adds weight and slows you down, and even a minor wound can ruin your chances in the next duel. Early on, a single bandit ambush can end your journey if you're careless. But the game's difficulty goes beyond combat. You need to eat, sleep, and maintain your gear. Clothes and weapons wear down and must be repaired or cleaned, or they'll hurt your reputation and performance. Alchemy requires actual mixing of ingredients. Archery has no aim assist, and traveling at night without a torch risks getting lost. Or worse, arrested by guards who think you're up to no good. The world itself feels alive and unpredictable. NPCs follow daily schedules, react to your choices, and spread rumors of your actions. Fail to pay a debt, and word gets around. Commit a crime, and the law hunts you. Even dialogue can be a challenge. Speech checks depend on charisma, reputation, and the clothes you're wearing. Sometimes the smartest move is to talk your way out of trouble or run. What makes Kingdom Come so punishing is that it refuses to bend the rules for you. There's no level scaling. Wander into a bandit camp early on and you'll be crushed. Healing is slow, fast travel is risky, and saving requires special potions unless you reach a bed. Every journey across its lush countryside demands planning. Food, equipment, and backup plans for when things go wrong. Kenshi is a marathon of survival and sheer willpower. At first glance, it looks like a sandbox RPG with real-time strategy vibes, but it's really a sprawling simulation that drops you in a post-apocalyptic wasteland and dares you to figure everything out yourself. No main quest, no neatly drawn path, Just a harsh, lawless world where starvation, slavers, and random raiders can end your run in minutes. You start as a nobody, literally. Your stats are pitiful, your gear is junk, and the first band of hungry outlaws you meet can knock you out cold. Getting beaten is basically part of the tutorial, but this treats failure as progress. Every wound heals into toughness. Every defeat teaches you how to adapt. That random attack that left you crawling through the desert, it just made you stronger. The beauty here is in the freedom. Build a squad of wanderers, craft a settlement, become a trader, or lead a band of mercenaries. The world is persistent and reactive. Towns rise and fall, factions clash, and if you decide to raid an enemy base, it can have lasting political consequences. Combat is messy and brutal. Limbs can be severed, and characters carry those scars for life. You'll spend hours recruiting allies, gathering resources, and gradually carving out a place in the world. What really sets it apart is how unforgiving its systems are. Hunger, economy, and faction relationships all matter. There's no level scaling, so wandering into the wrong region can end your game fast. Yet that raw, unfiltered challenge is exactly what makes it addictive. Every victory feels earned because you built it from nothing. Kenshi doesn't hold your hand. It barely even tells you where to start. But that's the point. Surviving in this brutal sandbox is a test of patience, strategy, and creativity that can humble even the most seasoned Dark Souls veteran.